The Habs are approaching what could be a pretty bad cap crunch this offseason and next, as we discuss whether or not Kent Hughes should look at buying out some players as an option. We'll be talking about that, plus a couple Habs prospects, including our favorite Lane Hutson playing for Team USA at the 2023 World, so you won't want to miss this edition of Habs Digest. Hello, bonjour, ahoy, and welcome to today's news edition of Habs Digest. I'm your host, Josh Gosse, alongside my co-host, Jesse Poirier, and I think this is the first video where I'm going to mention subscribing to the channel after we crossed 5,000. Made the community post, mentioned it in a few videos, but thank you so much for 5,000. 10,000 is the next big goal. You guys have been watching the videos like crazy. We hope that continues, as we're just going to get straight into things. Jesse, the first thing I want to talk about, there's going to be a bit of back and forth from us in this episode. The Habs might need to buy out some players this summer. Marc Dumont put out an article earlier today discussing that very possibility. He says, if Caufield and Harvey Pinard sign in the aforementioned range, and his range was about 7 to 9 million for Caufield per year, and Harvey Pinard had about 1.5 to 2, the Canadiens would be left with only about $9 million to $10 million with 37 players signed to a contract, and there's a bunch of other expirings that he mentions here. But the big thing he says here, if the team needs to alleviate precious cap space, they can and should look into buying out Joel Armia's contract. They would save over $3.36 million in cap space next season, $2.36 the following year, and then it would cost them $1.43 for the next two. So first thing I want to hear from you, Jesse, what are your thoughts on buying out Armia's or maybe some other player's contract as a way to make a bit more cap space for the coming few years? Do you think that's a worthy endeavor or not?
Interesting. You know, it's definitely not the preferred option. As we see, we're still paying for Karl Osner for a contract that he signed in 2017. So this is something that it can bite you for a long time. It sometimes can seem good in the short term, but in the long term, can be difficult. So it's definitely something to consider and to really think of those longer term implications when we're doing this. But Josh, in the case of the Montreal Canadiens right now, I feel like they're a young team. We have so many players that are just knocking at the door, and they really need that opportunity. Like, we know what we have with Joel Armia, and for sure it would suck to kind of be paying that cap hit, for the buyout kind of year after year for a little bit. But I feel like I echo many Montreal Canadiens fans when I say that we want the Habs to look radically different next year. We want to see the legs of Jonathan Drouin, of Joel Armia, even Mike Hoffman if possible, on another club, not to wish them ill or anything else like that. But I think just a lot of us just want to see that new look. I know for myself, I'm really excited for that. So for that reason, I would have to advocate for the buyout of Armia.
It's interesting because when I saw it, of course, as a lot of you guys know, I'm also a fan of the Minnesota Wild, and it immediately triggered flashbacks to the whole Parise Suter situation, and not even really flashbacks because they're still eating that money to this day. But what that has shown me is that if you have proper management, you can still build a contending team, even if they get knocked out in the first round, after you have these huge cap hits. And I'll just flash up the Habs cap friendly for you guys so you can kind of see what we're looking at here. If you look at Joel Armia's contract, of course, this first column is still the 2022-23 season, which has passed. So you should look at the start of the second column. Armia's 3.4 for the next 2 years, and of course, if you buy him out, you pay about $1 million next year and about $2 million the year after, like $1 million, then $1.5, then like $2 million for the 2 years after that until the end of 2026-27. But Jesse, when I look at this, I look at, instead of having to buy out Armia, I see some other options to free up a bit of money in the now. Mike Hoffman, the theoretical power play specialist, a guy who really couldn't get it together in Montreal, but could be a guy who just plays special teams for some type of contending team in like a fourth line role. If the Habs can trade him at maybe half retained on that $4.5 million, what will be expiring contract next season, that's a good way to free up $4.5 next year, plus he's not their problem anymore. And then you also look at defense, where a guy like Joel Edmundson, who has one more year left on his contract, he's another option to trade as an expiring deal. So there's a lot of opportunity here to like move some pieces around. And I wonder what your opinion is on maybe looking to trade someone like Edmundson and Hoffman first, maybe along with a later draft pick. The Habs have accumulated a bunch of them to try and get off those contracts, or maybe a team is willing to give up a fourth or fifth for someone like Edmundson at this point for 1 year. I don't know. To me, I know you advocate for the buyout, but to me, I feel like maybe Hughes and Gorton should explore trade options first, or maybe they already have.
No, it's true. To be honest, with Mike Hoffman, it's an interesting scenario it really depends on how we want to engineer this team of when we really want to compete, right?
True. Yeah.
And I feel like the reason of why they might want to go more of the Armia buyout rather than the Hoffman for right now is I feel like they know that the Montreal Canadiens are going to need another year still of rebuilding. I don't feel like we're going to be quite that playoff team yet. So, I mean, having Mike Hoffman like we did in this year, in many ways, it did kind of help the Tankathon while having an experienced player on a young team as well. But you got to think of the big picture of how they're engineering this team. They didn't engineer it to have it a winner right away, and with good reason, right? We need to be patient. We need to develop through the draft. And that sometimes means having players that are going to help your team, but they're not necessarily the players that you want when you really want to compete as well. So I feel like with Hoffman's contract being off of the books next year, that's more of when we're looking to compete. Is he's going to now be off. We're going to have that roster spot available. Whereas Armia, his contract is still getting into the time where we want to compete unless we buy him out, that he's going to be there and he's going to be holding a very valuable roster spot, you know? And I think it's, you know, we're really looking for that fresh start just culturally. There's a lot of these contracts that were signed the pre-Gordon and Hughes era. So I feel for those reasons, they're going to really want to craft this team according to their likings.
I think that's actually a good point. Where Hoffman and Edmundson will be expiring this year, Amir will not be. And at this point, he really hasn't shown much of a reason why. I mean, he's got some shots on the first line this year, but at $3.4 million, he's going to be hard to move, especially even as an expiring. Someone like Hoffman has theoretical value. Someone like Edmundson has theoretical value. Armia at this point, I feel like teams are just like, I'm not even going to take a flyer on him. There's other guys I'd rather give a roster spot to. So I feel like you're right in that sense. So maybe it's an opportunity to be explored. Let us know what you think in the comments. There's a lot of stuff that could be done with this Habs roster, and maybe a buyout is the best option. And we'll get into the final thing of the video. Lane Hutson and Sean Farrell to play for Team USA. It's pretty exciting, alongside one other Habs prospect, but we knew this other prospect was playing before, so I'm going to flash this up on the screen. You see I've circled Sean Farrell playing forward, Lane Hutson playing defense, and you'll see down there Luke Tuch is there as well. We mentioned that a few weeks ago, I believe, in a video, Jesse, where Luke Tuch and Alex Tuch said they'd be playing together. So it's very interesting. Lane Hutson and Sean Farrell, some Habs boys, getting their shot at the 2023 Men's Worlds, alongside some NHL talent like you saw there, Nick Bonino at center, Casey DeSmith in net. I think it's a great opportunity for them to get some experience, and I know that you're very excited to see what Lane Hutson can do in this tournament, Jesse.
It's going to be great to see, you know, and I just want to see them building up on all this great year that they've had. But what's so great to see is we're going to get a little bit more of an indicator where Lane Hutson's at, right? Because that roster is obviously he's going to have NHLers on his team, and he's going to be playing against some NHL talent as well. So this is going to be an opportunity to see where he kind of stacks up, where he's at in his development right now. I personally think he's going to tear it up, and chance I get to see Lane Hutson play hockey, I'm really happy with that. Of course, it's going to be really nice to see Sam Monty in nets for not the Montreal Canadiens, but for Team Canada this time as well. So, I mean, you know, well-deserved. I can't wait to see that as well.
Yeah, going to be a lot of Habs action at the 2023 Men's Worlds. You know, Hudson's going to want to prove himself after that kind of sad end to his college season. So, I mean, I think he looks like one of the best defensemen on the team. If you just show a quick thing there, you got some NHL talent, of course. You got guys like Nick Perbix, Scott Perunovich, Dylan Sandberg. But Lane Hudson's going to have an opportunity to shine, and I think so will Sean Farrell. I think they're going to surprise a lot of people and make a name for themselves. Not to mention Luke Tuch, who will probably be playing with his brother, and we all know Alex Tuch is a very, very good NHL player. So it'll be very interesting to watch, and I think you guys should watch along as well. But that'll do it for this news edition of Habs Digest. If you enjoyed, leave a like, comment, subscribe to the channel. I don't know, I guess the goal is now 10K. Let's just say 10K. We're all pretty far away, but why not? You guys have been subscribing like crazy. We really appreciate it, and we hope it continues. I'm Josh Gosse for my co-host, Jesse Poirier. We'll catch you in the next one.